the difference between 0 to 1 and 1 to n. We've spoken about this so many times. I think it's just it's just amazing how we sometimes forget about this. So the Robotaxi launch by Tesla on June 22nd, I think it's a pivotal moment in technology history. It's obviously a pivotal moment for Tesla shareholders and Silicon Valley. But most importantly, I think it's a societal fork in the road. It's when really two directions are taken. One with Robotaxi and the rest of the industry without. Because it's going to liberate us from transport shackles in terms of money. Transport's expensive in terms of time wasted in traffic jams and parkings. And we will think back just on the fact that in most large industrial cities in the world, parking has become not just a necessity, but an obsession. I mean, take people in LA, New York, Zurich. Those are just three cities I could think of. San Francisco is not as bad just because it's not as big. Any city that crosses maybe 2 million people is just unbearable for parking. Zurich is smaller, but the Swiss are incredibly good at constraining themselves into some sort of almost prison-like existence. So therefore, parking in Zurich is also a nightmare and incredibly expensive. So these are just some small tidbits of what a future of robots driving us around means. I think most of the effects that this will have, we can't even predict, which is another typical technology lesson to be learned. You just don't know what all these things will bring. The same way when the first YouTube video was launched, when the first tweet was launched, when the first email was sent over the internet, when the first Word document was written in digital form and printed out, we had no idea. I mean, we meaning humanity as a whole had no idea what that meant for humanity, what that meant for technology, and the same way here. But one thing we can say, and we want to use the Jeff Bezos argument here, which is let me see what doesn't change before I start talking about all the impacts of change. So let's focus on what Robotaxi means and what we can, with high confidence, predict will not change in terms of human nature and human behavior relative to this Robotaxi event. This is not even on podcast. It's June 25th, 2025. This is Krim Delco. For the year, we are down 12.3%. The market is up 3.8%. We're underperforming by 17.1%. So Robotaxi launch is a very big pivotal moment for Tesla because a technology that has been in the works for a good 10 years is now coming to fruition. And we had a launch, we had a proof of concept that it's actually working. There's an app, there is a robot, there is a robot taking people from A to B in physical terms. And that's a big deal. That's a much bigger deal than I think we can fathom right now. We're used to digital technology, we're used to AI. It's been in the talks for many years now. But this is the first time that physical AI is actually happening at scale in a general form. Again, I know we had Waymo, and people are talking about this in terms of like, well, it's been there, it's been done. I think Waymo was kind of like similar to the DARPA challenge, which interestingly enough was the roots of Waymo. It was a technology too early for its time. It was a technology that was embraced by the wrong people because it was too early. And that's actually a big lesson for government intervention, industrial policy. This is a very good case study for what happens when governments push technologies down the throat of society too early. It's not just that you have the wrong technology, like the Frankenstein type technology that results in something like that. It's also that the wrong people embrace it. And what do I mean with that? So in this case, uh, we had the DARPA challenge in the early 2000s, which galvanized the robotics community back then. And well, who else was it supposed to galvanize, right? It was people who were working in control theory and other typical robotics applications for decades. They were the natural go-to people when it came to to developing technology like self-driving cars. And they did. And to be fair, at that time, they were the best in their fields. People like Sebastian Thrun and others, they embraced this technology and delivered. The problem is they delivered the wrong thing at the wrong time in the wrong form. Waymo is just the next sort of development of that. It's a better Frankenstein. It's smoother. It has more contemporary technologies incorporated in its Frankenstein existence, but it's still a Frankenstein. Now enter computer vision and ARPANET, AlexNet, and all these things that happened sort of in the 2010s, and then 2012, the big event with ImageNet. That's a whole different technology, right? That's a different stack. That's a different approach. And most importantly, it attracts different people. Look at who was the person that built the stack for Tesla. It was Andrej Karpathy. What was Andrej Karpathy? Was he a roboticist? No, he wasn't. He was a computer vision person. Who are the big who are the big proponents of robotics technology today? They are more or less, and I'm generalizing here, either computer vision people or generally, computer representation type people. In other words, people that try to generalize the real world into a latent representation, and then store that into some sort of vector form, machine readable form, if you will, and then have it do prediction and inference on it. That's what actually is enabling robotics now, or AI in general. And I think it's those types of people. They come up the ranks through graduate studies and universities, and then work in the right places to get to a point where we are today, which is Robotaxi. Tesla is, of course, the sort of the big gorilla in the room here, the one company that has done exactly this type of process. They've hired the right people at the right time for the right technology. And I think it's a big lesson to be learned from industrial policy, because that's exactly what goes wrong with industrial policy. It's what's going wrong right now with China and its electric car industry. It's what's going wrong with Germany, and it's whatever they are doing here with energy and green energy and all that. Like, the ideas are always good. I mean, industrial policy is not a stupid thing. These are educated people that are trying to steer their countries or their societies into the right direction. There's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with that is the timing and the desire for people to do something at a time when they think it should be done versus when it's right to be done, when the technology is. It just takes time. It's like wine. You have to just wait until it's ready and then pull the trigger. So having said that, now we're in the sort of one to end phase now. So now we have launched the product, it's working. We, the FSD community, meaning people who are using FSD on a daily basis with a Tesla car, we know that it's working, but we weren't sure that it's working as a robotaxi. Of course, that's a whole different story. And I'm sure there's still glitches, things like, scheduling and finding the right place to drop off and take somebody, pick up somebody and things like that. I mean, there's a lot of things that need to be tweaked, but overall the product's working. And I think the next big question now is one to end. which is, okay, now we've launched a product, can we scale? These are the big questions, in my opinion, that need to be answered, and we'll see as shareholders. The purpose of this episode is not necessarily to talk about the stock right now. I just want to emphasize the 0 to 1, 1 to n concept and put it in context with Robotaxi. That's the purpose here. So 0 to 1 is probably the most important business book ever written, of course, by Peter Thiel, who is definitely the most successful investor ever, and also, in my opinion, the best thinker when it comes to actually business and economies. He's a better thinker when it comes to business and economy than philosophy or literature, ironically, even though he studied those things in undergrad. But that's a different story. So my point is, why is this so important? Well, the way progress works in society is through 0 to 1. That is how innovation happens. That is how the big breakthroughs happen. And the way wealth is created is by 1 to n. We need both, of course. We can't have 1 to n if there's no 0 to 1, and 0 to 1 without 1 to n is useless. What do I mean by that? Well, we can have breakthroughs in the lab. Actually, very often there are breakthroughs in the lab that create enormous amounts of wealth and things like that. But then, enormous amounts of potential. But then they don't get scaled, and if they don't get scaled, then it's just not it's not good. The problem of scaling is a very different problem than the 0 to 1 problem, because the problem of scaling is less of a sort of scientific, in the lab, academic endeavor, and much more of a business engineering endeavor. And I just spoke with my son about this. If you think about the difference between science, technology, and engineering, that's kind of the line that needs to be drawn here. So on the one hand, you have science, which is pure research, trying to find new relationships in nature, trying to understand nature, all those things. Technology is getting that type of knowledge and turning it into some sort of product, like something more than just equations on a paper. And engineering is when the rubber hits the road, when we actually build those products at scale so they can be delivered at costs that are sustainable, that people can actually make money with it, and also customer can be happy with it. That's important. Both are important. Any product that doesn't make money is useless. That's why I've been a big opponent of companies like Uber, because the cost doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. Like the taxi model is not sustainable. I would say something like Cloud Kitchen is more sustainable than Uber, because at least if I can find a way to robotize cooking, then maybe I can have food at scale at lower prices and high qualities and things like that. But definitely, hailing cars and having people drive them around and clean them and fix them when they crash and things like that, that's not sustainable. So Robotaxi is the answer. And when we have breakthroughs like this, we usually see a massive proliferation of that technology into use cases that we haven't even seen before. And this is what we expect with Tesla. I think to talk about the numbers now and all these things would take more time than I want to dedicate in this episode. But I just want to remind listeners to a couple of just facts of technology, things that, like I said in the beginning, we can be pretty sure won't change. One, people will always ask for lower prices and higher value, better experiences. That's not going to, no matter what the actual situation is, politics, brand recognition, all of these things, people will go for lower price, higher, better experience. And when that happens, it will naturally evolve into new use cases. Transportation is confined by its cost structure, like every other service. And when you lower the price, new experiences start coming out. We've seen that with phones, and let's say long distance used to be expensive. Today, people use FaceTime for educational purposes and things like that. YouTube was originally it was a dating app, and it turned out to become the biggest entertainment company in the world. So my point is, we don't know where this technology will go, but we know for sure that they will proliferate. Now, when it comes to the actual wealth creation, where is the wealth creation? The wealth creation is in being able to lower the cost of doing things and increasing the experience. So whether that is Netflix, that is just making it a much, much better experience to consume media, or whether that is a transportation robot that just allows you a lot more personalization, a lot more convenience, and a much better experience. I was just on a road trip. I am on a road trip right now, but I'm stationary right now. But I drove for about 10 hours a few days ago through Europe, and it's just not a nice experience. You have to drive. My car is not a Tesla. That's a different topic. But it's difficult to rent Teslas in Europe, so I had to take a conventional car. They have lane keeping, but that's about it, and it's just really not a good experience. I mean, the car company is doing the best they can with the available technology, but clearly a future Robotaxi or Cybercab or something along those lines will improve the experience of traveling around mountainous Europe much, much, much better. So that's wealth creation, because we increase our, to use David Deutsch's definition of wealth, it's the set of potential transformations that a society has. And with this type of technology, the set of transformations, of potential transformations, just goes up exponentially. And that's why I'm invested in Tesla, because we believe that not just are they creating enormous amounts of value for society, but we also believe that they will capture a big chunk of that value. And if we do the math, our expectations are, let's say, if we do about, 6 trillion miles driven globally, 6 trillion miles at $1 per mile, that's $6 trillion roughly, which is the transportation industry as a whole, including vehicles, insurance, gasoline, all the stuff that comes with transport. So it's about a $6 trillion market that probably can be increased by 10x with AI. So we have a $60 trillion market. Let's say Tesla captures 10% of that. That's 600 billion. This is software type revenue. So you give it, let's say, 7 times. That's about 4.2 trillion. So this gives you roughly an estimate of where the company's valuation could be within the next, call it 7 years. So 4.2 trillion in 7 years, that's probably roughly 18%. I haven't done the math, but I guess it's somewhere in that ballpark. Now, that might not sound like the kind of 10x spectacular return that some of the Tesla fans are touting. And we here at Orange Capital Partners, we're part of the Tesla community, but we're not in the business of promoting the stock at all. We don't care whether you buy the stock or not. The purpose of this podcast is to give people a sense what it feels like they're on a hedge fund. It's not to promote Tesla. So it just happens that we're invested in Tesla. We believe there's a lot more upside than that. But that's kind of your baseline, just based on what we know right now, based on what is happening on the technology front, what is happening on the market front, the way we see the market. We believe that a market like transportation can grow to those types of trillions because you also have a lot of replacement. For example, near-term flight will be replaced with cars. I think a lot of things will change. Dubai as a city, for example, is completely transforming itself now with tunnels and robotaxis. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on that I mean, to quantify this requires not just another episode, but another series of episodes. The purpose here is really just to give a flavor of how we think about this and why this event is so important. I hope for listeners, this is not investment advice, by the way, so please do your own work, but I hope we can give people a bit of a sense for how to evaluate these types of opportunities. There is no precedent. There is no metric you can use, KPI, none of that. It's completely uncharted water. This is Christopher Columbus crossing the ocean into new territory. But we have some indicators. We have some indicators, and we have a sense for where this could go. And I think that's the best we can hope for. And hopefully we can also transpire that and help people understand how to tackle these types of problems. I think if we can do this, this would definitely fulfill our mission here at Owens Capital Partners as an investment firm and also as a media firm, podcasting about the process of investing in fundamentally new concepts and engineering practices. Thank you.